Welcome, everyone, to a brand new podcast brought to you by two of the Shadowverse Evolve official English ambassadors, myself, DifferentFight, and Ignideus, Mr. Igni himself, over here. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. This podcast has been long in the works, and it's finally happening. So I could not be more energized on a beautiful day too.
Yeah. It's a beautiful day on both of our sides. So for those of you tuning in, you're probably like, "What is this?" So basically, myself and Igni have been wanting for quite a while to kind of have a platform to talk about Evolve without necessarily just, putting out videos every single time about each topic. And because a lot of interesting things happening in the community all the time, there's a lot of new announcements that go out that it's like, well, I'm not going to necessarily make a video about this announcement, but still want to talk about it with the community. So we thought that we'd have a platform through a podcast to talk about Evolve on. And then on this podcast, we'll basically be covering both the English and the Japanese side of the game. And we'll be splitting it in half, where you'll see half of the episode on my channel, on the DifferentFight channel, and then you'll see the other half of the episode on Igni's, Ignideus channel. So that way we can also kind of split, how we cover things between the Japanese side and the English side and give you a bit of information about both. We'll be talking a lot about events, talking a lot about upcoming sets and cards, and also doing a lot of event predictions. And generally speaking, this podcast in general will release monthly. So that way we can also summarize a lot of the events that happen every month, especially now with a lot of the English side tournaments coming up very soon too. So Igni, how are you feeling about, our first episode here?
I mean, I've been so excited for this. Even the process of designing the logo that you see in the bottom there, that took a while. We had to line all of our ducks up in a row, and finally it's happening. And I could not be more hyped for it, especially because, like you said, a lot of these topics, you can't make a whole video about it, because it just wouldn't be enough content for that. But just being able to look back on the event and also look forward to what's coming next in just a one-stop place for the entire community to tune in, I think is just going to be really helpful for everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, getting started, we're both pretty active players of Shadowverse Evolve as well. I obviously play more on the Japanese side of things, and Igni plays more in the English meta. And then in Japan, we did have the release of Set 11 that dropped fairly recently, and it's been definitely shaking up the meta quite a lot. And I think for a lot of Sword fans, it's definitely good news because Not brought in with her a whole wave of really strong support that kind of puts the whole Sword class in line with the rest of the meta, which I've been kind of messing around with as well. That's been pretty fun, but we'll talk about the Japanese side of the meta a little bit later in this episode. And I think we can basically get started and recap maybe a little bit of the announcements that have been happening over both on the English and the Japanese side. And there's actually been quite a lot of little small bits and pieces here and there, right?
Yeah. I mean, in the Japanese side, there's been a lot of product news as well.
Yeah.
Not just events, especially recently, a bunch of news just dropped on both ends as well, which is pretty interesting. So I mean, do you want to just get into it? Let's just dive right in. News recap. I
think let's get into it. So first things first, I think quite a few people probably already saw this, but there is the Shadowverse Evolve player survey that is happening on the English side. So that's actually the application, or the survey period, I guess, for this is actually almost coming to an end. So you still have a chance to answer the survey, and you also get a chance to win a box of Paragons of the Colosseum, which is, if you give your feedback, which a lot of people, we kind of talk about how important feedback is to give and talk about, just because of, how vital it is in terms of just giving back to the community.
I think the survey is so important. The fact that they're actively seeking out feedback too just shows that they want, the game to improve, especially on the English side. And I know that a lot of the players here in the Indonesian space, specifically, because that's my local, what I can speak to. People are very, very vocal and very passionate about the game. People love this game and they want to see it get better. So I saw in all of my WhatsApp groups, people just sharing this everywhere. I'm just like, please go answer. And there's no downside. You could win a box also if you do it. So there's no downside to doing this. You absolutely should.
Yeah, so they even say here, right? It's you will shape future updates, improvements, and content. And it's whether you just started playing the game or you've been playing from the start, it's whatever you say is going to be very important for the future of the game. So make sure to get your voice heard. I think it's one of the very important places. I don't know how much it is for you, but I do get people coming up to me very often and going hey, I have this feedback about the game. Can you pass it on to the devs? Or like, it's like, oh, like they will tell me things kind of like, I feel like sometimes maybe even with the expectation that I am the one with the power that can change it. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yes, that happens
we're just content creators.
they're like, hey, you're an ambassador, right? Can you tell Mr. Bushiroad this, and this? And I'm like, sir, I just make videos.
Yeah. But this is your way to do that. You can tell Mr. Bushiroad.
Like, you don't have to go through us anymore. Let's just do the survey.
Exactly.
And I mean, honestly, I hope they do this like semi-regularly. I think it would be a pretty good idea because yeah, I mean, it's just like being able to listen to the community, like the people who actively play your game, or even like the new player experience, the onboarding experience. That's all very valuable in growing the game, especially outside of Japan. So like, yeah, definitely take a look.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%. Then moving on, this one's a pretty brief one, but they basically announced something that's quite surprising, the addition of SP cards starting from Alter Chaotica. So this is set 8, that's going to release in beginning of next year, actually. But this was quite a big surprise because this set, it did come out in Japan at the beginning of this year here. And it didn't have this rarity. And it's also like the choice of Mysteria is obviously very cool. But this SP rarity is something that just got added to Japan basically in set 11. Or I guess technically they had SPs with like the UMA.
In UMA, yeah.
But they kind of discontinued it. And they brought them back with this like shiny gold bordering and everything now in Japan. And like those, both the Not and the Forte go for like insane value. So
is this Mysteria art English exclusive? Like it's not in Japan at all?
I recognize the art somewhere. So but I'm not sure if both versions. I feel like
this... But it looks incredible either way. And I think it is just a good idea to have, it's the ideal is to have like chase cards that you can get excited about pulling and for the high rarities to aspire for. It's always a good idea. So I mean, I'm down with it.
100%. So very welcome addition. We also, they just kind of dropped this. We don't know what else there might be, but I guess we'll see with future announcements. Then another small change is the ruling and Q&A changes for choice-related cards. So basically, they have a little explanation here as well with Fina. So, Fina is I think anyone that plays the game regularly is pretty familiar with Fina, but she either lets you look at top 5 to add a 1-cost follower to your hand, or to destroy an enemy 1-cost follower, right? But they basically say that before, if there are no selectable enemy followers that cost 1 playpoint on the field, can I still choose option 2 and play this follower's fanfare ability and have nothing happen? So in the past you could, and now it says if you can't select an enemy follower, you would be required to choose option 1. So what this might seem kind of redundant, I think, to like the, just to someone that maybe doesn't play the game as often. But what this basically means is that, for example, if you play a deck that, let's say, actually is able to stack the cards on the top or bottom of your deck in some order, and then let's say you're about to reach that stack, and then you'd want to play Fina, and then normally you wouldn't want to touch that stack because you want to like draw those cards in that order, but then you'd be forced now to look at the top 5 and kind of like disrupt your stack. So it's an interesting one.
I mean, just yesterday I had this is so funny because it's odd having the world champion be my neighbor. He came over to my house yesterday and he was telling me about this errata, and he was like, man, this is actually really affecting my play. Because I used to just play Fina and everything, and if I didn't want to touch my deck, I would just like whiff the option, and now I can't do that anymore. Yeah. And I'm like, for casual play, I don't think it's that relevant, but like if you're playing at a higher level of competition, like the ability to intentionally whiff was a thing that players could opt to do, and the fact that it's like not an option for them anymore is very interesting. I wonder why they ended up making this change.
Yeah, I mean, this was a change that happened in Japan fairly recently, so if anything, this change is happening earlier than it was done in Japan. But I mean, we'll see. There are quite a few choice cards, but a lot of the more recent choice cards aren't just like choose 1 of 2. It's like choose 2 of 4 or 5 effects and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things affect going forward. But just a small little change that I think it's good for the player base to be aware of. But then, Igni, we have, I think, what majority of players are most excited about, which is the events. And I think especially for you, there's going to be a very, very busy upcoming month for events, as of course there is on the official X account for Shadowverse Evolve English, they do feature both you and Red Zone Rogue as the casters for the Grand Showdown in Los Angeles. But you guys also made a video talking about your predictions for this as well. So how are you feeling? You know, for the people maybe that didn't get a chance to watch it, you know, how are you feeling for the Grand Showdown now?
I mean, personally, I'm obviously biased because I'm doing it, but I am really excited to see like high levels of competitive play, especially because I think the meta is pretty fun. Like in set 5, the meta was really, really fun, and there weren't that many major events, which is I was kind of like, man, like I really wish there was one. Now in set 6, the meta is still pretty good. I think there's some frustrations with, you know, maybe some decks being a little bit overrepresented, especially some players have been talking to me about that. But I
the usual feedback sessions.
I think the meta is still wide enough to be really, really enjoyable, and the fact that we're having like this big like would you say it's like a continental event because it's like one per region, right? So
yeah, it is. It is basically like an international.
Yeah, like an international for people to come in and show their skill is quite quite exciting, especially since it's like running alongside BCS as well. So I just think like more events good.
Yeah, 100%.
More ways to qualify for Worlds as well. Give people more opportunities. So
yeah.
Hey, if you're gonna be playing at Grand Showdown Los Angeles, I'll be casting your play. So, you know, play your best, and I'll be forced to talk about you.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, you know, the stream itself and like how the meta pads out too, but also just like what kind of wacky decks people come up with, because I always kind of try to emphasize how, you know, there is a big release gap between English and Japan, but English does pick up on like where Japan left off, and it's like Japan had this huge period of discovery in when set 6 was out, where we started off with like Forest being the best deck in format, and then it became cool on down the line, and then a lot of other decks were moving around throughout that entire period. So I'm curious to see if like on the English side what else has been cooked up. And like I do notice that the way that the decks are rated between the Japanese and English communities are quite different sometimes as well. So I think that's like it's going to be this event where we get to see a lot of that. And there's also, because this event is open for everyone to participate in, there's actually been quite a few people in Japan that have been contacting me and asking, it's like, oh, how do I join this? Like, what do I need to do? It's like, you know, they asked me about like English Bushinavi and all that kind of stuff. And I basically just kind of break them down. But a lot of them are targeting the Singapore one in December because it's obviously very close to Japan.
It's closer. Yeah.
But, you know, there might be some surprising faces at the Los Angeles one too. So it's gonna be very exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to watching it on the side as well.
I mean, to add to your point about like the English players like discovering new things about the meta. I mean, just at Worlds this year in February, we like second place was like Rose Queen. Like, who could have seen that come in, right?
Yeah.
And recently, I've been talking to the Indonesian scene, and they were like, "Dude, Amataz overrated, bro. Hunter secretly crazy." And I'm like, "Yo."
That's true. I've noticed that as well.
Yeah, so I'm like, I gotta see, and like a high level competitive event like this is the perfect proving ground. See if those ideas are actually true, or if they're, you know, you're a weekend warrior over in your locals. Yeah, and
that's
I mean
true.
the pricing is also so cool, like the hot stamped Blazing Breath that I believe the alt art we're getting much earlier than Japan got it.
You are.
And the Gilnelise art as well. So it's really sick. It's really sick.
Sure.
I just like having more just more opportunities for high level play. Like it's always exciting to see how the meta develops, and that kind of thing like trickles down into local play too. Like they see what lists are topping. I definitely know that there are Rose Queen players that only popped up because of Worlds. So
exactly. So I'm curious to see what the effect will be like that as well. But
for sure.
We'll talk more about our predictions for the Grand Showdown later in this. I think on your side of the episode, actually.
That's right. Like, just a reminder,
outside of the audio,
both link to each other's halves in
yeah. So make sure you check out the podcast on both of our channels, unless you're watching on audio sites, in which case it's probably just all one big episode.
Yes, I've discovered how to do that.
Yes, I'm gonna leave that to you.
Yeah, no worries. Okay.
So that's our first little bit. So don't forget to tune into the stream for the Grand Showdown, and then we have quite a bit of information for things happening on the English side in terms of the events outside of the Grand Showdown. So of course, you know, we have the Singapore one coming up in December, so book the dates for that. but also for the showdown challenges, the pricing has been changed for October and November. So starting from next month, the champion walks away with a Spinaria, which is this beautiful one that, of course, this was a CS promo in Japan, like last year summer, I want to say. Actually won one, but it's like in the back over there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful alt art too. Like it's an art I recognize from the digital game as well, and I'm like, oh, and that's the leader art from Spinaria, I think.
Yep.
From the digital game. And the showdown challenge winners also get a buy card at Singapore, which is pretty interesting too.
Yeah. So I already know some people have been farming these and going through the events just to get just make the grand showdown process a bit easier to go through, right? You know, a buy card is one of the strongest cards in the game, right? It beats all the tier 1 decks.
Yeah, it's an auto win.
Yeah. It is.
And this is the pricing I was talking about earlier. In LA, it's a silver hot stamp, and in Singapore, it's a red hot stamp. So that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I don't think I have this slide has the silver one, but you can see the red one here from.
The art is the same though, and yeah, this is the one in Asia. And honestly, listen, I know that the red is a little bit garish, but I kind of like it. I kind of want to rock up with the text that looks like it's highlighted in red because it's like menacing almost. You just
I feel like the blazing breath, especially, it fits really well. I feel like that's very, very cool. So
it's like one of those things where it's hard on the eyes, but for me personally, but I'm like, I like it that way. I want my opponent to look at it when I play it.
I feel it. It's very, very nice. So they do have a link to the website here for the rest of the Showdown series. So you can take a look at all of the other information here to check it out. And of course, you know, the grand showdown that it also leads to. And of course, I guess we haven't really talked about it too much, but you know, you do get an unsponsored invite to Worlds as part of the pricing as well, which is very, very important.
Yeah, I mean, Worlds is like so much fun. I mean, I only been to one Worlds this February, and I'm already like so much looking forward to the next one.
Right.
Like, it's a whole different energy, so you definitely want to be there.
I always tell people that go to Worlds to like book at least a week. It's such an experience, like not just the weekend of the event, but it's also like everything surrounding it. It's like the 3 a.m. adventures with friends, you know, and all that kind of stuff. It's like it's great.
Got pizza in the hotel room at 2 a.m.
Absolutely, dude.
Let's go.
That's a staple. A staple of the experience. So that is the showdown related information. And then, of course, we also have the BCS side of things. So
this is a big one.
Yeah, if you don't know what BCS is, it's the Bushiroad Championship Series, which starts, well, with the shop challenges already has started in September. And this, of course, is running through all of Bushiroad's card games. So it is encompassing Evolve, Vanguard, and Vice. So, of course, if you play, you know, more than just Evolve, if you play Vanguard or Vice as well, then you get a bunch of stuff from it. On the Evolve side, going to these shop challenges, all participants do receive this beautiful Trail of Light promo card, which, by the way, Set 7 is coming up. You're going to need your Trail of Lights for all the Natura decks.
Oh, for sure. Dude, even Daniel, I mean, he was just over yesterday, so I talked to him a lot. And he was like, I was like, bro, what are you doing grinding so hard? You're qualled. And he's like, I need that PR. I'm playing every week.
He needs the cards, man. Let him.
Man.
He's married to the game. That's just how it is. The true champ.
True. Yeah.
And then if you also win a shop challenge, you actually get a buy card for the format / game. So usually it's game, but for Vanguard, of course, it's a standard and premium formats. But you basically get this buy card, which you know, has to be signed by the shop and everything with like the date written down on it. And then when you go to a BCS regional qualifier and you present this, they will give you a round buy. So a free win. If you don't know what a buy is, it's basically a free win at the beginning of the tournament, which means that you can actually walk around the entire venue, see what the whole field is playing, scout out what you're going to be facing off against. Of course, your deck list has already been locked, so you can't make any changes if you see something, but it is a very big advantage because this gives you such a huge, like, relaxing start to the day, right?
Oh, for sure.
You're starting off after like half of the room has already lost once.
Yeah, a big part of the thing as well, like people underestimate like the human element of playing in these competitive events. Like just having a round where you don't have to be stressed out of your mind, your decision fatigue isn't like building up immediately. Like just going into the round you're going into with a fresher mind is a big deal. So
exactly, it's very, very big. But then of course, you know, we already talked about the regionals, but it is what it leads into. So the regionals, of course, happens for all Bushiroad card games. And it's pretty cool because this time around, I feel like they really put a lot of effort into the pricing overall, like both for participants and for the, the top players as well. There's also side events and whatnot, but just for pricing, right? Looking at the Evolve side, everyone that participates gets a promo pack that has one of these 6 cards at random. And like, dude, I'm seeing this White Frost Whisper. I'm already like, all right, this is great. Shikigami Summons, if you're playing Kuon right now, that's like a must-have. Greenwood Guardian too.
Boost Kicker is a huge card for Haven. Like,
right.
A lot of the cards in the pack are actually like really, really strong. So
yeah, so
I like about it.
Basically everything is set 6. It's like basically like highlighted cards from set 6 available in a foiling that you've not been able to get until now. And what's also really cool is tote bag. I think anyone that's met me IRL knows that I'm a tote bag Andy. So,
you're a tote bag guy.
Yeah. So I'm always happy whenever like I go to an event or like you go to like a expo or something and they give you a free tote bag just for showing up. It's like, hey, sweet, I'll take that. That's awesome. So you get a free tote bag
too. Yeah.
And this is the important thing to highlight is that top cut pricing will depend on how many players show up to the event. So when you have 128 or fewer players, so like 64, let's say, then only top 8 will get this pricing. But if you have more than 129, but less than 256, or 256 and including, then top 16 gets the top cut pricing. But if you have 257 players or more, then top 32 gets the pricing here. So for Vanguard, it's the, we're not going to go over the Vanguard pricing here, but for Shadowverse Evolve, you get
that is so... I saw people in Japan. I mean, you can speak to more about this, but people in Japan were freaking out about this too. Like the Mono EP, dude. Like Mono is maybe like one of the most popular characters in the entire game, like,
by far. I've had Mono fans in Japan go like, "Can you help me get this?" I'm like, it's doesn't exist yet. It's not out yet.
Yeah, but for sure.
Yeah, this will be a big one for sure. I think there's a different Mono as well you get from the side events, but this is the one for.
It's a slightly different art, but in the same chibi style. Yeah.
And it's nice. I mean, it's like everybody will know that, if you have this one, you make top cut at a BCS, which is always great.
Yeah.
And then for top 8, so top cut and top 8 are different. They're technically different pricing. So if you get top 8 in a regional, you get the beautiful Kuon playmat. And this is the one that was the Grand Prix Kuon art from Japan. That this was never available as a playmat. This was available as a sleeve design. And of course, as the prize card itself. But the playmat is a world first, actually.
It's just gorgeous, and also the fact that Kuon is such a meta threat. It's like, hey, here's a reminder of what you went through.
And it's gonna be for a while. Like, dude, we are like, Japan's about a year ahead. Kuon is still around in Japan. It's still one of like the main boss units in a lot of these decks right now as well. So it's very nice to have it as a top 8 prize. And then top 4, there's also another prize. So you keep getting more and more. You get the Acolyte's Light. So of course, a staple of any Control Haven deck, Acolyte's Light prize card is awarded to the top 4
special
players.
foiling on the text as well, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
So it's nice and silver. And then top 3 gets a certificate, and second and third get an unsponsored invite to the World Finals, which will happen in spring 2025. So you see, right? It's like if your event is big enough, you get something for getting top 32. Then if you win basically 2 times, you'll make it into top 8. And then, after that, I don't know actually if they're going to be like, if the top cut pricing is different from the top cut tournament. So, whether they will just give pricing to whoever makes top 32 in the case of 257 or more, we should probably ask. Or if it's like, it does say that the number of players in top cut will vary according to the number of players in the tournament. So I guess that does mean they just cut to that many so like it'll be just 32 players left to play out for the World Invite, which will be, definitely, it adds some extra rounds. So basically, 2 more wins gets you to top 8. 1 more win gets you to top 4, so you win yourself the Acolyte's Light. And then if you finish top 3, so if you lose top 4, you still have a chance to win yourself an invite. And then if you finish first or second, you both get an invite. But the winner gets a sponsored invite. So
big deal.
It's a big deal. They pay for your flight. You get the hotel paid for the days that it's, that it's around the event, basically, which is really huge. And exclusively, only for Shadowverse Evolve, you also have a champion promo card, which is the BCS Kuon. So this is actually, the other Bushiroad games don't get a champions prize, which is very, very huge for Evolve, right?
That is gorgeous also, can I just say. I like that a lot. I like the normal art, but I think I like this one several times more. Honestly, like it feels so dynamic.
Feels special too. It's like the fact that it's
Yeah,
only
it
available
does.
as a prize card gives it that kind of
For
like
sure.
extra
And you only
kind of.
get one? You only get one? Oh yeah, you do.
Yep. Just you know,
Well,
just win 3 regionals, right?
just win 3.
How hard can it be?
Holy
It's as
moly.
easy as that. So I mean, there will be a lot of BCSs, and you know, you can, even if you, I'm not sure if they clarified on here, but at least in past years they did have a thing where you know, you can only win an invite in the region that you are living in, but you can still get the prize cards even if you can't get the invite. So even if you have a Worlds invite, you can still go to other BCSs and top and like get the prize cards. So it'll just get, the invite just gets passed down basically.
Yeah.
So
That's, if we see, if there's like an elite warrior who can win 3 regionals for this Kuon's strongest soldier, that would be one hell of a story.
yeah, I mean, the ball's in Daniel's court at this point. See if he can run through. He can do the Asia tour.
He's already Kuon too.
yeah. Just might as well, you know. Married to the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's basically the BCS information that we know so far. We don't know the date at the time of recording, at least. We don't know the date for World Finals itself. They just say it's in spring. So more information about that will...
Spring 2025 is the same time that Worlds Beyond is slated to release, so...
Yeah.
I'm gonna be busy, bro.
It's gonna be a big spring for... It's gonna be like, you know, when you graduate high school and you go to university for the first time, or you graduate university and you go to work for the first time. That's gonna be like the new season of
yeah, it's a new era
the new
Shadowverse,
beginnings for Shadowverse players, basically.
Yeah.
Worlds and Worlds Beyond combined.
For sure. Yeah.
All right, so moving on from the BCS side of things. Oh, this is just another visual to show. This is like a very nice little slide that they had on
Just a little recap, yeah.
Yeah, so this was pretty cool. A little recap of all the prizing once again. But then, one other thing is that the judge program for Shadowverse Evolve, or just Bushiroad judge program in general, the next round of tests has just started, I think, at the beginning of September, and it's running until the end of October. And
that's right.
What's cool about, you know, being a judge for Bushiroad games is that you get exclusive promos. Vanguard has a bunch of really cool ones too. I haven't really checked the Vice ones too much, but for Evolve, it's going to be Heavenly Aegis and Cerberus, and these arts can only be obtained by being a judge. So
yeah, these are alt arts that are also in digital. So if you're familiar with digital, you'd be familiar with these arts, and they just look incredible, man. Like, especially for me, I think the Kerberos art in this one is a big upgrade, personally, in my opinion. So like,
yeah, the background is so nice.
Looks so good.
yeah. I mean, Japan's gonna get another Cerberus art pretty soon.
That's true. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty good transition, because our next topic in this part of the episode is actually Seaside Memories. So basically on my side of the podcast, we're going to talk a bit about the upcoming Japanese releases and all that kind of stuff. And so basically in Japan, we have a reprint set coming up. So in Japanese, it's called like Seaside Memories. And it's going to be releasing at the end of September, and is basically, you know, you can already see the Cerberus here herself. It's a big reprint set with a lot of the cards that had a big effect on the game reprinted in summer themed arts. So of course, like Cerberus is in here. You also have like Lily here as well, you know, very big part of Forest. And like each pack, you know, for those of you that buy the Japanese sets, each pack comes with a legendary or greater as well. So here you have like the new An as well. Of course, they had to give me the Galmu SP. It's huge.
Yeah, so this website dropped, and Chris is like, my wallet is gone, bro.
Self-destruct. And there's also a few new cards. So this Alice, for example, is a new one as well. It's like
that's true. I was just gonna ask, like, how many new cards are there exactly? Because
7.
There's a few that are like,
I believe it's
7 new cards. Okay.
Total of 7 new cards. So you can see here, the box design is also quite different because they're very small boxes. So basically, one box only has 6 packs in it, and one pack has 3 cards. So it's very small.
Each pack has a legendary in it, right? So it's pretty fun. Yeah.
So you get more value out of it, which is very nice. And then you also have this, like, they have this little game on the website where you can basically like click one of these books. So for example, if I click this one, right, and then open it, and then it like plays a little animation, and it gives you the the character that you'll make summer memories with. So I guess it's
dude, this feels like a gacha pull animation. It's very funny.
So this is like the Doki Doki degrees, like the excitement degrees. It's 50%. So we're you know, Lily, we're still getting to know Lily over here.
Only 50% on Lily?
Only 50%.
No way, bro.
We can roll it again. Oh, abs! We got the oh god. What is happening? Is this the SSR? 58.
That was not a thing. When you put a whole animation, you only got 58. We got scammed.
We got scammed, dude. Wow, so we went to the depths of the sea with Geno. Yeah. We got this little campaign going on, which is pretty cool.
It's fun. So I like when they do these like in the Shadowverse digital side, you see like the Luna cookie clicker that they did as well. I like it when they do these fun little activations. This is harmless. It's fun.
They've been doing more of it lately, which is cool. So you can actually like win 3 people can win boxes from doing this and like posting on, because you can see here if you play it. So we can just let it. Oh, we got a new animation. Let's go. The orcas.
For people who are
John, 95%. Whoa,
95% on John.
All right, great. I guess that's what I'm spending summer with.
I will say, if you're listening to the podcast version, just know that Chris is clicking clicking a button, and then a firework goes off, and it shows which character he's spending the summer with. So 95% on Jean. You're making a lot of people very jealous there, Chris.
It's peak. That's all I can really say. But if you click this big red button, you can share your memories on an X post, and so that's how you get entered into the giveaway. So don't miss out on it.
Have you done that yet?
I've already done it. I've already done it. So yeah, and then they basically feature a bunch of other arts, which is really cool. So you can see here, you know, we got Orcus, Zwei, and like Spinaria. There's like so much forest on this one page.
If you keep scrolling down, there's even more that just show up, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you guys are curious, just head on over and look up Seaside Memories for Shadowverse Evolve, and you can see like a bunch of the arts featured on the website already.
Yeah.
Chris just silently clicked on the Calmu one without saying anything.
My wife.
Nice.
But this is a really cool one. The Meowskers one. This is the Nateran Great Tree. So it's the token from set 7. And when you play the game that I just showed you, you can hit some arts that aren't on this list. So for example, there's like a female knight token. There's a Ginsetsu. That one goes.
Oh, that's big.
That one goes insanely hard as well. Yeah. And there's quite a few others, so I'll leave it up to folks to discover. And of course,
a lot of the reprints are like really key cards, but there's also a few fun ones in there, like Mithra and all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And some of this one I really like how it's like the you can actually see the frame. Oh no, they don't.
You can if you click it.
There we go.
Yeah.
So you can see the framing. So whether like what rarity it's going to be available in. So this is going to be in SL and GR. So that's also pretty cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
One thing I'm kind of
curious
about.
A lot of these arts, by the way, a lot of these arts, I feel like most of them, in fact, are original. Like they weren't in digital Shadowverse. Like so it's new to me too, as somebody who's played digital Shadowverse. I think some of them are from like Rage of Bahamut.
Yeah, quite a few of them are from Rage of Bahamut. Like I've seen this Albert before. Yeah,
but these were never in Shadowverse digital, so it's really cool to see it in this Shadowverse framing, like these arts coming in.
Yeah,
really nice.
So especially like things like Phylene and Galmu, which are like Shadowverse original characters, they definitely like. This is the first time we see these, so it's very good.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's Seaside Memories. It's gonna be pretty exciting set. Not that many new cards to talk about. So by the time the next episode comes out, the set will have already come out. But it is gonna be pretty interesting to see. It's not gonna be playable at the next Grand Prix, but it'll be playable after that. So pretty exciting stuff. And so it's been pretty fun. So definitely check out the website. It's a nice little touch they got going on. All right, and then moving forward, set 11 has actually released. So the Reveal set 11 is released at the end of August, and it's been pretty cool. Of course, it's basically this is where the SP rarity came back. So they had like the Forte, and especially the Not. That's definitely the biggest chase card of the set. I think was very exciting.
Not for me. Give me that SP Forte, baby.
The thing is, like the Forte was like, I feel like everyone was like is used to seeing Forte all the time. You know, like she has so many different forms. She's in Granblue Fantasy, she's in Rage of Bahamut. Not is like a Shadowverse original that gets like she was like the first Shadowverse original to get like a summer alt art skin kind of design. So I think for a lot of people, this one definitely,
it just looks fantastic too.
It really does. It's like it still feels very much like it has the characteristics of Not on it. It's like so much, right? It's like it's so good. And like seeing it in like I don't own the card, but I've seen it in stores, and it's gorgeous. It's absolutely amazing looking. But yeah, the set, we don't have the official translation yet for the traits, so we'll call it Wasteland. The Wasteland, you know, kind of like trait of the story basically is in this set. So, you know, things like not things like, you know, basically it's like for Forest and Haven and Sword and of course for Abyss as well. So it's definitely a lot of interesting stuff. So yeah, so we've had like the first few weekends of the Shadowverse Evolve CSs, the championships. So you can basically in the official Japanese website, you can look at these like columns where they summarize the results. And it's been pretty cool to see a lot of the new cards being featured. So of course, you know, for Dragon, people weren't sure what to expect, but basically like the deluxe starter deck managed to put in the new cards pretty well, which is nice to see. And then one of like the biggest contenders has been Abyss, just because like Ice Chilindrig is so generic, so you can just see it in like every single deck doing work. And
I don't play JP meta, and I'm not that familiar with it, but even I've seen like all of the JP players memeing about Ice Chilindrig being so good. Seeing like the Thomas the Tank Engine edits with his magic train and all that.
It's very good. It's very good. And then we also have we just talked about Kuon.
We
just talked about it, and it's been definitely doing very well just because it plays a chess engine in it as well. So this isn't necessarily like too many of the new set cards, but there's definitely a different rune deck that features them. And then of course Sword, thanks to Not-Not's whole gimmick is just very cool. It basically like seals an enemy follower, so it gets like sealed into a box. It's like the
cube.
It gets cubed, yeah. It's like the term in Japanese is literally like hakozume. It's like just sealed in a box. So it loses its effect, all that kind of stuff, and it just becomes like kind of just nothing. But then usually you destroy it. So that's kind of like her other trait. And the deck is pretty aggressive. Like Ralmia is in here too. A lot of like the good cards like Liad are in here as well, which is very nice. So
I'm happy to see Baron and Bunny at 3 of as well. Like they're some of my favorite characters from Reveal. So the fact that they're also played alongside.
Yeah, Baron and Bunny. When the set first released, people were like, "Oh, not is so good. Is Baron and Bunny even going to see play?" But then ended up being very, very good. So it's nice to see them being used. And then also for Haven, I really like Selena, so I'm very happy to see her being used as well in this kind of like it is kind of amulet Haven, but there's not that many amulets in the list. But you have to keep in mind that the tokens that this deck makes are amulets, so you still get like the amulet synergy. With the older cards as well, which is very, very nice. And like a lot of the neutral tools from this set are very strong as well. And then one of my like surprisingly favorite decks from this set has been Forest. You know, of course, the good old Open Up Daze.
Open Up a Daze. This is our home, right? For the English players.
Yeah. So this deck it's pretty crazy how fast you chip down your opponent's life with it. I'm surprised it's not been performing as well. Like it's getting some tops here and there, but the kind of like the big four right now in the Japanese side is like basically we've got Abyss, usually control Abyss, including the Ice Chilindrig, and then the Sword that I just showed you. And then the other two are Dragonic Overlord from the Vanguard collab and Earthright, because Earthright got a new tool in this set as well. And And then Forest kind of exists sort of like just on the below level, I would say. But I personally expect it to do pretty well because it's super fast. Like Giant Pastures, Pasut for those that are aware, is...
That's a very old digital Shadowverse meme for the people who have been there for a while.
But this card is so good. It's like a big AoE damage that just, you know, it's so easy to set up as well.
Oh, it's like how it is in digital. Also big AoE damage in digital.
Yeah. But it feels like even more impactful and evolved than it did back in the day for me. So I feel like this list, especially like Shamu Shama, is like this whole deck just plays the exact same as it did back in the day. It's just that Shamu Shama being a really good one cost that you use, in this deck in general getting really good one cost cards, means that your Chipper Skipper also got better. And you guys are gonna, I guess you guys aren't gonna get Shipper Skipper in English just yet, but she's really good, and then like Fina's really good in this deck too because of all the 1-drops. So it's just a very fast deck, and it's like the general game plan is very similar to digital as well, which is quite cool, I'd say. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah, that is nice, especially like people who like are converted from digital to evolve, seeing familiar faces play in a way that they're familiar with is always a treat, right? Like like seeing Aegis body and like block people in evolve. I'm like, oh, I remember this.
Yeah, right. It's a good little feeling.
It's an aspect that I think is very charming about evolve if you play both games.
Absolutely. So that's been like kind of like the first couple of weeks of set 11 over in Japan. But then over in Japan, they announced more things, right? We got set 11 to enjoy, but they announced so many things. They had like basically the Japanese Evolve news show that they do every few months with the official ambassadors. They had like the producer on as well, and then 2 of the official casters from Side Games as well. So we have so many announcements. I think we got to rapid fire through some of them quite a bit, but basically Uma Musume is getting an EX collab pack at the beginning of January, which means that these are mostly all new cards, but it's gonna be like brand new arts that were never seen before. Like I think some of them will be coming from like original like Uma Musume the app, but this will also be kind of similar to Seaside Memories, where it's like 8 packs per box, 4 cards per pack, and then like look at this, you got 24 SSPs, 24 SPs, and you know the SSPs in Uma Musume are the really crazy good looking ones, right? So this one's gonna be a doozy, I think. Especially like the arts. Like I don't play the app of Uma Musume. I'm really not that well versed. It's like the one Side Games IP that I didn't like. I watched the movie and that was about it. But look at these arts, dude. They look so good.
They're incredible, and I feel like Uma is making a huge push in general. Like we got the party game coming out, we got the English app coming out, and then now another Shadowverse Evolve collab. It's like it's an Uma takeover, man. And Uma is such a huge IP that I really think it'll bring a lot of eyes to Evolve as well. Like
especially in Japan.
Isn't it like the best-selling game in Japan?
Yeah. Like what's also crazy that when this was announced in Japan, a lot of the people that played Evolve very actively in its first year and then, you know, maybe got busy with life, you know, and then had to like take a break, they all are like running back to the game now. It's like as soon as the CX pack is back, I'm also back, right? So
I mean, they're Uma cards, right? So they also should work with the Uma set that happened earlier, right?
Right, and I expect that the old decks will also get some support too.
They'll get a boost, surely, yeah.
So definitely looking forward to it. So this is going to be a big one. They revealed all of like the voice actress signs. So cool. You know, it's the big stuff. It's definitely the big stuff.
Isn't there a thing about the original pack right there?
Yeah, so this is basically like telling that these are on sale. The original starter deck and the original booster set.
Nice.
So yes, that's the original Uma stuff. Then we have set 12. So this is kind of like the second set of Machina and Natura themed decks, which is going to be pretty exciting. You know, some of these are on like from spells, some of them are from followers, right?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, if you're a digital player, you might remember Steel Rebellion and Verdant Conflict, but then after that, we had World Uprooted, so this is sort of like the World Uprooted.
Basically World Uprooted, and I think, especially if I scroll down, you're gonna see why it's World Uprooted.
Yeah, okay.
So
basically, oh my gosh! He's back! If you're listening on audio, we just gasped audibly at the return of Natura al Machinus, who is shaped the entire competitive meta of digital Shadowverse for a very long time, and now he's coming to Evolve.
You say he's back, I say she's back, bro.
Yeah. Oh, they got the waifu beam on the UR.
The waifu beam, dude. This is so what's actually kind of funny about this specific slide is that, like, you see they preview the pack arts on the bottom right? Yeah. So you've got, you know, the Forest Craft duo, you've got the Abyss Craft duo, but then Evolve players don't know who Yuan is.
Oh, that's so true.
Yuan literally doesn't exist in Evolve. He's not a leader. He's not a card. Nothing. So he's actually just doesn't exist. This is a new character.
He's coming. New character just dropped.
Yeah, but I think it's only fitting. So they revealed a lot of cards for this set. I think I can translate just the Natural Machinas because this one is, you know, going to be the Chase Legendary, I think, for the set. So it's a 5-cost 4/4 Legendary that has the Machina, Natura, and it's like I guess I'll translate as like great god traits. I don't know if we have any other cards of this trait yet, but it's a neutral, and it says that when this is discarded from your hand, so this specific card would be discarded, you can engage one of your Natura and Great trees, and then choose a Natura card that is different name from this card from your cemetery and add it to your hand. So basically allows you to get back your any other Natura card that isn't Natural Machinas. So this is, you know, whether it's a spell, whether it's a follower, whether it's an amulet, doesn't matter as long as it's in your cemetery. And the fact that it rests a tree is also pretty good, because a lot of the good Natura cards, they do ask to like pop your trees, like to wipe them off the board, so you can rest them and then get rid of them. It's, you know, pretty good. And discarding this is so easy in Natura decks because you know, the tree itself says when it leaves play, you draw one, ditch one. So it's so easy to get to drop this out of your hand. And then the fanfare,
because you can pick any Natura card, right? So like,
yeah,
it's so there's a lot of like different pulls you can get with this. So I think it's like really generic that you can slot into basically anything. It's
like a fourth, fifth copy of every card in your deck, basically.
Exactly, yeah.
Pretty nice. So that's the first effect. Then it has a second, which is a fanfare. So when you play it for the 5 cost, it lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can find one Machina card from among them, reveal it and show it to your opponent and add it to your hand, and then put the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. And then you put a repair mode token into your EX area, which is a Machina spell that heals you. And then you recover 3 play points.
You were saying that, and I was like, okay, normal. Wait, hold up.
So
it's a 2 play point 4/4 that draws you a card and gets you healing.
It's pretty interesting because it's very different from the app version. The app version was the craziest card. Like, to me, this card was trauma. Like in the app.
I mean, how do you even adapt fusion from the app into Evolve? Right?
So there's 2 things that I think Evolve cannot really adapt, and it's like fusion and invoke. And I think Igni would be very happy to know that invoke is hard to.
I'm not an invoke man, no.
So it's interesting. Do you think, like, because Natural Machinas carries with, like, you know, you pop up the image of Natural Machinas to a app Shadowverse player, and they immediately, like, it's like, you know, flashbacks. Like, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Do you feel that this card, the Evolve version, carries the same aura?
I think rather than being like a super boss monster like it was in app, it just seems like sort of like a solid tempo mid game play to me, which is fine. Like we've seen adaptations of cards be like that as well. Like, but yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly got the aura of I will be playing this in my deck. That's what
it's definitely like a must have 3 of.
It's not like a scary, oh my gosh, my opponent has Machinas, I'm gonna lose next turn, like it is in the app version. But the fact that it's a 2 play point 4/4 that draws you a card essentially is pretty, and you can push your tempo that turn too because of that. So I don't know, I like it, but yeah, it's certainly less like this is my boss monster and more like this is my mid game play. Yeah.
It's like, I also think the repair mode is nice because, for example, for Machina Haven, they need repair modes in their EX area to lower their costs for stuff. So it also like has good synergy with that. It's like, it feels like this is quite well positioned into a lot of the existing archetypes, except for maybe I'm not too sure about Natura Forest, because Natura Forest definitely plays kind of like, they hold their trees more for the combo plays with Lightica. Whereas, for example, like Natura Sword likes to keep the trees on the board and then trade them off, so like resting them is a bit easier there. So we'll see how it like really slots into these decks, but I can already see maybe some decks might want this more than others, because otherwise, like if every single deck wants this, it's like all 6 classes want to have 3 Natural Machinas. We might be hard to actually like get copies of this card in that sense.
Oh yeah.
So yes, and then it does have a UR.
Yeah, it's nice. It's not, you know, Zelgenia 2 or whatever.
I mean, it kind of is.
Oh yeah, it's still like generic enough to be mostly wanted though. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same aura of like I'm going to win now when you play it though.
Right.
Yeah, like it did in digital. So you know, digital players, fear not. Okay, they they didn't recreate your nightmares, but he is strong. Yeah.
So, and now you both have Technolord and Natural Machinas in waifu beamed URs.
Oh, there's more than that. Shadowverse also has like the Spartacus waifu beam.
Yeah, Spartacus too. So it's definitely quite a lot.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of other card reveals, things like Dual Angel, and other tools. I guess Dual Angel is the only other one that they revealed. I can quickly translate it. She's basically a 1/1/1 with a Natural Machina and Angel traits that puts a repair mode or a tree into your EX area, which is pretty good. Works with both decks, right? So this feels like a card that you'll want in every single deck. And then she evolves for 1, becomes a 2/2 that chooses an enemy follower. And if you have a total of 5 or more of Machina and or Natura cards in your field and EX area combined, then it deals 2 damage to it. So you don't necessarily have to mix the traits. You can just, you know, as long as you have 5 Naturas, right, it's going to proc 2. But it does ask you to set up quite a lot, right? Like 5 is a lot of tokens on both, you know, whether it's your EX area or your field.
I believe her name in digital is Changewing Cherub, so that might be the way they do it.
Yeah,
in English as well, but yeah, it's kind of similar to the digital version, right? Like having Machina and Natura to proc an effect. So
yeah,
pretty nice. Yeah,
definitely. And then this
one,
that's
dude, big news. That's big news.
This is big news. This is so, you know, if you're just looking at watching the video, it might be a bit hard to tell what this is, but basically in this set, they're going to, it's kind of like leader cards in digital Shadowverse. They're going to include a exchangeable, like, I don't know if it's a token, I don't know if it's going to be like a common card, but in some capacity, they're going to include something in a pack that you can exchange for this supply set, which includes the playmat, the storage box, the sleeves, and the deck box of Mistelina and Lydica together. And it's like, look at the playmat, look at just, it's so good. So
for audio only Andes, it's Mistelina hugging Lydica in the front, and then in the back, it's like a bunch of manga panels of their daily life. It's like very cute.
It's so sweet. Like I'm a big fan of both characters, but especially Lydica really grew on me, especially in like the very end of digital Shadowverse meta. I think you remember probably too. I was like spamming Lydica like crazy. I was just like a Lydica only Andy at the very end for some reason.
Yeah.
Dude, how are we feeling about this supply set, or just this, like, them doing this in general?
It looks incredible. I think I need more details on like how exactly it's going to be implemented. Like you said, is it a token, is it a common card, or what have you? But yeah, I mean, you brought up a really interesting comparison when you said it's like digital leader cards in Shadowverse digital. Well, I didn't even think about that. Where in digital Shadowverse, if you open a leader card, you get like the portrait, you get sleeves, you get. And this is that in real life. So I feel like that's such an interesting adaptation of an idea that digital Shadowverse had into Shadowverse Evolve. And I mean, listen, if I had this available and I pulled that card, like, you better believe I'm running down to the store to get these, because like what I like about it is that it's a whole set of supplies of this fantastic art too.
Yeah.
So no matter what, you can find some use for it. Like that's the thing. Yeah. It's not just like, I have like 12 billion sleeves, here's another pack of sleeves. No, you also get the playmat, the box.
Yes.
It's everything. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. It's peak, as some would say.
It is peak, yeah.
It is absolutely peak.
Great.
So there'll be a lot of the reveals for this set basically will start in full force from the 1st of October. So you can look forward to that. You know, follow the official Japanese media, the official channel, the official X account, and you'll be able to see all of that. They're also going to put up like a schedule of reveals. There's going to be stuff on the YouTube channel as well. There's going to be like some new videos showing off all this stuff, so you can look forward to that. And then on the 1st of October, Rolla is going to be revealed, but she's a Havencraft follower, this
is highway robbery of my favorite class. How could this happen?
So it's like, people were talking about this because she's a Machina, but there's no Machina dragon in Evolve.
Right. Yeah,
so but there is Machina Haven. So it's kind of surprising. It's like, it's not like an Alter Sphere kind of set where it's like we're switching classes. It's just like they just straight up plugged her out of dragon and put her into Haven.
I mean, she is an incredibly well-designed character, so I understand why they'd want to put her in, even if they couldn't fit her into Dragon. So, you know what? Maybe I'll play Haven this set when it comes out in English.
You might have to. Yeah, and then there's basically just some event information. We can kind of skip over that. Then we also have booster pack 13, which is basically the Velsar one, that is also going to be coming out at the beginning or the middle of December, I guess, the 13th of December here. And a lot of fan favorite cards. You know, we got Sekka.
I'm noticing already that Alucard and Calgaro are both
Abyss
2 cost there. Hello?
Yeah.
And you Rose Queen Enjoyers. I was a little like, are both of the new title cards for Abyss Rose Queen support?
Yeah.
Scary.
That's gonna be pretty big. Just because I mean this archetype was so strong in the app as well. I mean basically all 4 of these were pretty ridiculously powerful in the app. So definitely looking forward to seeing like Sekka also being a 1 cost. It's like, you know, Fina Stonks, Chipper Skipper Stonks, all that kind of stuff. And then I'm very curious how Buff Dragon will be implemented. Like,
I wonder, because in digital, Romelia was also a buff card, and she's the DX starter deck. So I wonder if he'll be support for that. We'll have to find out, I guess.
Yes, actually, at the bottom it does say that this will support, you know, the deluxe starter deck.
Oh, that makes sense. There you go. I didn't even see that. I just called it.
So this will have support for you know, those archetypes. So it's gonna be pretty cool. And he does actually have the trait, the Buto Ryujin, from the deluxe starter deck. So it's gonna be very interesting for sure. Definitely looking forward to how that set paces out. And then this is we already kind of talked about this. A lot of the reveals, like new cards for Seaside Memories, and you know, they basically showed a bunch of art. And then I lost my mind over the Galmu. And there's also this playmat that is going to be basically given away in a bunch of tournaments. So it's going to be tournaments running from the 27th of September to the 27th of October. 100 different, like about 100 different stores will be organizing these tournaments where the winner and also a random winner get this playmat of Phylene and Galmu in their summer attire.
The playmat also shows that the Phylene and Galmu arts are like a connected art, which is super cool for any dragon players out there. Because Phylene and Galmu are played in the same deck, which is very funny because that's also
they're mortal enemies.
But lore-wise, they are mortal enemies.
Yeah.
They're hanging out at the beach.
Yay! Besties.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then they talk about the site, all the kind of information that we sort of already went through.
Oh my gosh. That Leod alt art. Sorry, we just scrolled past it, but yeah, there's a CS in Japan where they have a Leod alt art that isn't in digital, and I'm like, that he has so much aura in this.
He has so much aura. What's really cool is that, so this is the CS prizes, the championship prizes from October onwards. So for participating, you get the Wild Lizard, but for getting top cut, you get a set of the Leod. So you get the pre-Evo and the post-Evo just for getting top 8, which is really nice. And then the winner gets the Dimension Shift with a Daria on it, which is really nice.
Chris, I'm gonna go ahead and open up my Mina no Nihongo, okay? I gotta head over there.
It's time to grind. It's time to grind. And this is, I guess, another thing. So, you know, we do have some listeners, I assume, that live in Japan that, you know, are just listening to how things are. So it's also good for them to get the little news recap. But this is another thing that we have in Japan called the ranking battle, where every 3 months there's a season for both shop tournaments and CSs. And the top, like in the CSs, the top point earners get buy cards at like Grand Prix and stuff. But for shop tournaments, the top rankers get different prizes depending on if they rank at the top of the country or the top of their area. So for example, like the Kanto area for people living in Tokyo. So for the national playmat, if you're in the top 100 ranks in all of Japan, you get the Aishilindrig playmat, so the UR art. And if you rank in the top 900 combined of all the areas, then you get the Jean Summer playmat as well, which I think, you know, that's kind of nice because you can just show up to locals like once or twice a week and just like do relatively well. And you oftentimes already end up being in like the area ranking. Like even on the stream, Tomoda-san was saying, it's like, I just go to locals sometimes. And then one day a playmat came up in my mail and I was like, oh, I actually got in.
Yeah. And the art is just so OP too. Like whenever I see this, I'm always so tempted to, man, I really do gotta open that Mina.
Yeah, dude. The move to Japan is real.
The Aishilindrig one is crazy broken, dude. Like it's so cool.
It's too good. It's actually too good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about this more, but of course we have the Chiba things coming up as well. So there's going to be the next Grand Prix. This will be streamed as well on September 21st and 22nd. We'll do a bit of predictions at the end of this half of the episode for that as well. And then this is another kind of like new thing in Japan that they added to Bushinavi, which is the guild system. So it's basically like guild in App Shadowverse, where you could have like kind of like a clan and then add people to it. And we didn't really know what they were going to do with it. But now they basically said that it's they're gonna like within the guild, the top 6 people will like be able to get points and stuff, and it's like you get points based on where you finish in, or like how you do at the Grand Prix. So it's like if you end up first, you get 500 points, and then it's like if you end up top 64, you end up you get 300 points, and then it's like just for showing up to the event you get 50 points. Then for each battle, if you win or lose or tie, you get some amount of points. So they kind of like go through a bunch of calculations to show how the points are. It's still the beta test of the guild system, so I don't know if they're going to be like big rewards or anything for it, but it's pretty interesting. A lot of these functions that are tested in the Japanese Bushinavi sometimes do make it to the English one. I don't really know, because this one's brand new. Like it literally just came out in Japan. So I'm not too positive on like what they'll be doing with it in the future, but it's a pretty cool thing that a lot of people in Japan are also hoping that other Bushiroad games get the system too, because it's just like a cool way to like, you have your local play group, but now it's like legit, you can put a name behind it.
That's true, and also like that's also just how locals kind of work anyway, where like a bunch of players from the same store have like a Discord group together.
Yeah,
might as well make it official. I wonder what the points are going to end up being used for in the end, though.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see. Yeah,
exactly. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how it goes. And then the final bit of the Japanese news, or the continuation of Japanese news, which I guess we'll touch on in the next episode, will be the Bushiroad Strategy Presentation 2024 Autumn. So for those of you that are not like regular Bushiroad Andes like myself, it's every season, so every 3 months, they do this big strategy presentation for all Bushiroad card games, and they do huge announcements for all of their games. So for example, like the Vanguard Shadowverse Evolve collab set was announced at one of these, and I lost my marbles. Vanguard always has insane announcements in this, but also like every other Bushiroad card game as well. So I will be restreaming this and translating everything over on my Twitch, twitch.tv/DifferentFight. So you can tune into that. It'll be at 3 p.m. JST, that's Japan Standard Time, on the 23rd of September, which is a Monday. I guess it'll be like very late Sunday for the Californians and like people in like Hawaii.
Go follow DifferentFight on Twitch, and it is September, so.
And Ignideus, you're reviving that Twitch lately too, right?
Yeah, it's just for fun though. You actually do translating work, and I'm like, go follow that guy.
No. This is a mutual support podcast. But yeah, they actually talk about like the details. They're going to be doing more stuff about the Uma Musume set, which I think that's why the guest voice actress is actually from Uma Musume as well. And then
really?
Yeah. And then they'll also be doing event and tournament information for 2025, which is we only know the first GP is happening in like January or something, and not much beyond that. So I guess we'll actually get some big info for that.
Oh, exciting.
So yeah,
I will be there no matter what. I will be seated.
It's a lot of information that we get from this. Like I was quite surprised by this like stream they did where all of this got announced, but they really packed it. There's so much really. What are your thoughts on like all of these announcements?
Where do I even begin? I mean, the guild system, I'm really curious to see how that goes, because if that ends up taking off, then like really hope they bring that to the Bushinavi in the English side as well. Because I know that's how my locals works personally. Like we have like separate Discord groups and WhatsApp groups for each of the stores. Like if they could rally under a banner like in an official capacity, I think they would love that.
Yeah, right.
So that would be really, really cool. I hope the supplies thing comes to English as well. That is awesome. But generally, I think the thing that I'm the most excited about in all of this news is the new sets, because it's like, for me as a person who played digital, it's just like the biggest kick I get is how they adapt the cards from the digital game I love into the physical game that I love. So that's always a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And if Valsar ends up being as good in Evolve as it was in digital, because that was a banger meta, that would be a win for everybody.
100%. I feel like this they unveiled so many things to the point that we now know everything is coming up for Japanese Evolve basically until 2025, which is
like February.
It's an interesting feeling, right? Like we still have quite a bit of 2024 left. There's still like a good 3 months. Like I guess when you're, you know, for card games, it's actually not that much time. You look at so far into what's coming up all the time. But never forget to enjoy the now. Always test for the current format. So it's always a fun time. Definitely always a fun time. But yeah, so that's basically it for the Japanese side in terms of like all of the releases and all those kind of packs. I think we'll kind of jump back onto the English side here. Just a quick reminder for the upcoming sets that we have. So we've got the crossover set, Idolmaster Cinderella Girls, that is coming out in, you know, just a bit less than a month now, October 11th.
It's a great entry product, no? Like, I heard that the cool deck was, like, legit. We can talk about this a little bit more on the other half of the podcast when we talk about the English stuff. But, like, yeah, I mean, if you have Idolmaster friends who are curious about the game, like, it's actually a pretty easy recommend.
Yeah, 100%. It's a very good starting point, and, like, one of the best decks from this set ended up being, like, super, super cheap in Japan. And that was, like, a very big entry point for a lot of people into the game, too, which was very nice. Then, of course, in November, just a month and a bit after that, is Verdant Steel. Cool set. This is like one of the sets I would love to revisit on the English side, just because when this came out in Japan, I was super busy with academia. So I didn't really have the time to really like dedicate to it. But it was a very, very good time. Honestly, it was a very, very fun time. And I really wish I'd like spent most of the time playing like Natura Sword, but I wish I played more Natura Force now in hindsight. Like I awakened to be a Force craft player all of a sudden. Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
I'm enjoying Open Up the Zenlatica all of a sudden. It's like, what's happening?
Dang. I mean, yeah, and also like just a note, like the things have changed a little bit in terms of how the boxes are presented. So you get 12 packs in a box now. And I believe the ratios have changed slightly. Each box has at least 1 SL or higher, so that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, absolutely. So set time is going to be a big one. I actually got a case of this set back when it released in Japan too, so definitely a very, very exciting one. Very good set to get a case
I mean, Natura Machina was like such a pivotal thematic crux upon which digital based a lot of its identity. So the fact that it came to evolve in such a cool way was always a hype moment for me.
And it was also like, I was really glad that I bought a case of this set because there was so many good neutral cards. Because it was like, you know, I needed the Techno Lords for all the Machina decks. I needed the what was Mother's name in English again?
Viridia Magna.
Viridia Magna. Needed Viridia Magna for all the Natura decks. Like, God, that card is so good. It's still around. It's like even now in Natura Sword. So definitely going to be a very, very important set. And a lot of the cards from this set are going to stay good for a very long time too. All right, and then as we kind of briefly touched on at the beginning of the podcast, we have Alter Chaotica.
Just announced, right? Yeah,
yeah,
pretty much just announced.
Set 8, so on sale February 7th, 2025. So it's going to be a very exciting set where basically, you know, all of these cards, these characters have existed in Shadowverse Evolve already, but they're going to be in different classes. So, for example, Medusa, normally she's from Abyss. She's going to be in Rune now. Rose Queen,
kind of like a multiverse thing where it's like, oh, this is what it would look like if the roles were switched, kind of thing.
Exactly. So, and this was also honestly, I really like the meta of this set. This was a very, very good one. A lot of really cool and diverse decks.
I am really looking forward to it because in set 8, I know there's a lot of support for the cards from set 5 as well. And I know that in set 8, Zealot of Disdain and Sneer of Disdain are in the deck. And I played that at my Singapore locals because in Singapore they play JP. So I got lent a Disdain deck to play when I visited. And I was like playing Galmu on 5, game changer, dude. It changed, like, my third eye open. I'm like, this is the deck I'm playing when it comes to English for sure.
Yeah. And like, there's so many good generic tools in this set too. So like the Rose Queen is like a whole boss unit that like the whole deck identity becomes based around. And she gets played in a lot of like variants of Abyss that you can like kind of, you know, as we talked about earlier, right? We saw the Velsar stuff. There are 2 classes like, whoa, Rose Queen, Rose Queen. So
that's the thing. Rose Queen is one of those cards that makes you think whenever a 2-drop Abyss comes out, you're like, Rose Queen?
Yeah.
It's like a card that makes you think that in perpetuity forever. Like that's how good it is. So yeah,
exactly. And then it's like the Medusa as well. Like she is a super generically good, basically a way to like clear off board while also making your spells cheaper to play. And so she's going to be playing a lot of rune decks. And the Ether also is very good in Sword, a Searcher, also very
I'll
good.
say right now, if you're a digital player, like a lot of these cards will look familiar to you because the current throwback of this month is Alter Sphere. I mean, has Alter Sphere cards in it. So
yeah,
I see that Holy Lord Ector in the top left. I'm like, oh, I played that guy a lot this month, actually.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, you are right. So it'll also feature the thin foil tokens. It's something that I don't know how much the English side feels, but on the Japanese side, a lot of people were just like, dude, just make the tokens thin. It's like they take up, you know, the thick ones, they're nice to feel, but they take up a lot of deck box space. So a lot of people just like really prefer the thin tokens. So you'll get the thin tokens in foil in the set as box toppers, which is really nice, especially like the Lloyd and Victoria, because those will be, you know, that is Orcus.
Good for a while, yeah. And I need that Otohime's Vanguard, man, for spamming guys with my PDK. That's the new way for me, so I'm ready.
And also the Magic Sediment too, of course, for Earthright coming up. You know, just a set later. He's also going to be very, very big. And stuff like Thornburst, like Fairy Wisp foil too, like just good, right? Good choices all around.
For sure.
So yeah, and then we already touched on the special rarity stuff. So this is going to be pretty exciting to look at as we approach the release date, but there's still quite a lot of releases before that as well. So
calling it now, putting my swing for the fences out there. I will open 2 boxes of this, and I will open the SP Mysteria.
Okay, already calling from 2 boxes.
I have to manifest this positive energy into the universe ahead of time. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that comes true. If it doesn't come true, come back to this podcast episode on Chris's channel and comment like a haha. You didn't get it.
in several months' time. All right, so looking at things coming up in the horizon to finish off our first half of the podcast episode, I guess the big announcement coming from my side as well is that I'll actually be a special guest over at the Bouchard Expo in the Philippines in Manila. So this is going to be over in October. Pretty big stuff.
That's hype. Yeah, I've never been to the Philippines, so
me neither.
I'm looking forward to your chronicling your adventures on this.
Yeah, I will be filming a vlog when I'm there. So it's going to be very exciting stuff. Going to be a guest together with Tatie Shirin. She's the voice of Anon from a very popular Bang Dream band MyGo. Also has an anime and everything. And Anon is also over in Vanguard. She's actually, we have a MyGo like collab deck, and Anon's like one of the most important cards in that deck. So it's nice. She's going to be a guest as well. So it's going to be pretty cool. I'll be doing stuff for both Vanguard and Shadowverse Evolve. So it's going to be very exciting for fans of both games, basically, which I think is pretty exciting. So I'm personally very hyped. It's like my first time being a guest at a Bouchard Expo, or like first time being a guest in general as like a content creator, which is very nice. You know, you had
I was gonna say, as somebody who has guested at a Bouchard Expo, it's a great time. Like,
how was yours? Like when you were, it was the one in Indo, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Honestly, I was sort of worried because, like, how embarrassing would it be if I went there and then nobody went to say hi to me?
Yeah, right. It's like slight worry. I'm like, I'm not a MyGo member.
But actually, like, everybody from the local scene showed up and was like, "Oh my god, it's Igni!" And then when I had to do my show match on stage, I was like, they were like, "Who wants to do Igni?" And everyone like put their hand up, and I'm like, "Oh, I feel so bad. How do I choose somebody out of this crowd to fight me?" And like,
damn.
Much fun.
I'm gonna need the tips. I'm gonna need the tips before I go to the event. In that case,
just pick random people and then have a good rapport with them. Like just play the crowd. It's a fun.
Yeah. I've already been thinking about how I'm gonna do that. So definitely super excited. So that's like a big side on my events. So I'm not sure if like the next time we record an episode will be either right before or right after the Philippines Expo. Might be right after, probably. So I'll get to talk a little bit about that event experience. Definitely super excited for it. And then the other thing on the Japanese side is the Grand Prix Autumn Chiba. So this, of course, is going to be we have a Grand Prix basically for every major set for the most part, excluding some, but for the most part. You do see this beautiful Budding Baron art as well on the side. That is the prize card this time around. And there will be a stream happening on both days, I'm pretty sure. And anyone that participates gets to get one of these promo cards that you see on the screen right now, including Giant Pastures Frosted Whisper, surprisingly, right? It's like already, you're getting it in English now, but it took it this long for Japan to get it as a tournament promo, I guess, or at least in this wave. So it's pretty cool. So you get it with the Grand Prix foiling, which is very nice. And then, you know, there's a bunch of other prizing, but we can
Fire Bond. Is that Paladin of Clemency I see over there?
Yeah.
I'm the Rainbolt GeoGuessr of Shadowverse card names. C1 Pixel. That's Reinhardt, the reincarnator.
That's him.
Yeah.
That is him.
Yeah.
So this will be taking place.
All very cool looking. Yeah.
Yep. Taking place during the 21st and 22nd. So basically the same weekend as the Grand Showdown. So due to time zones, you can probably actually watch both of them, probably for the majority of both. So of course, you know, put priority on getting to see Igni and Red Zone Rogue cast. And then when they're offline, you can go watch the Chiba stream. And so you can have like a non-stop 48-hour weekend of just Shadowverse Evolve.
Eyes taped open.
Yeah. So, and this one will be over 2 days. So like you do get to see quite a lot of Shadowverse Evolve action throughout the weekend. And, you know, speaking of which, we can also talk a little bit about our predictions for this GP as well. Let's jump into some of these predictions about GP Chiba. So, of course, there's also the website for GP Chiba, kind of like has all the details as usual. It's got like a lot of prizing. So, you know, we went over the participation promo, but just from making day 2, you get this beautiful new Tenko Shrine art.
Oh, wow. That's not in digital either. That's new to me.
Yeah. So just for making day 2, you get this, which is, it's honestly gorgeous. Top 64 gets the Desperado Shot promo card as well. So it's like the SL version of the original, which is very cool. And then, of course, top 8 gets qualification to the Japan Championship, which, you know, we commentated last year, actually. It was very fun time.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And then top 8 also gets a copy of the Bunny and Baron. So this is like the pre-evolve version. So the text box is like tiny. It's basically just like a piece of art. I think this is actually the first. Is this the first GP promo? I guess technically we got Lucifer GP promo back at the very beginning of Shadowverse Evolve in Japan. And that one is like an evolving one. But I think ever since they switched to these like alt-art full arts, this might be the first evolving one. So you get 1 copy for top 8. You get a second copy for getting top 4. And then, or for getting second, sorry. And then you get the full playset for winning, which is also very nice. And you get these like Bushinavi flares too, which is very, very cool. They go over like all of the details and information for the event as usual on the website too. But I think it'd be cool to take a quick look at like what was topping in Japan over these first few weeks of the set being out and kind of like make some predictions. So for context, as I said earlier, there's basically the big 4 decks in this format, which is like the 2 remnants from past metas, which is Earthright Rune and Dragonic Overlord Vanguard. And then the 2 big new ones from this set are Wasteland Sword as well as Wasteland Abyss, or like Control Abyss, I guess, more so. So this is like, you know, Wasteland Sword, we kind of talked about briefly before as well. Saw some good results. And then you've got like Amulet / kind of like Burn Amulet, Haven, that of course uses Selena, and that like whole package. Like I've really liked this deck in digital, especially. It was very, very cool. That, you know, could see some success as well. Talk quite a lot about, you know, Wasteland Forest, which I personally is like my sleeper pick for the meta itself. And then we also had tops from Dragon that also did pretty well, just from like the new support. And then a lot of different Abyss variants, as well as, of course, Kuon still kicking in there with that chess engine. This deck is really, really strong, honestly. It's like, I think whenever the format becomes more wide open, Kuon just kind of like slips back in, which is always very interesting to see. And then this last week of CSs, we saw Natura Sword still kick in with the addition of Spartacus. Yeah, so Spartacus is a really cool card where it basically says that when you would deck out, you win the game instead. So you play like the entire Natura package in here, and then you deck yourself out just by drawing a bunch of cards.
You cycle so much of the trees too, right? So it's
yes, exactly. And not is just basically like a tool, right? It just gives you an option to fight against a lot of this. So I can actually pop open the like what's really nice about these columns that you can actually pop open the deck list and take a look at all the lists that are featured. So like Vincent, for example, has been popping up, and like Vincent's kind of funny He's a 5-cost 4/4 that searches for like his specific trait card and like puts it to the cemetery. But you can only evolve him if you've added to his attack or defense this turn, which is like a pretty strict condition. But then when he evolves, it's like basically if you have 3 or more different cost cards in your cemetery when he evolves, he heals your leader 3. If you have 6 or more different ones, he draws 1. If you have 9 or more different cost cards in your cemetery, then he deals 9 damage to all enemy followers. And if you have 12 or more different cost cards in your cemetery, then you deal 12 damage to all enemy leaders, which is like, you have to have all these different costs, right? So when you look at the list, you see here, you got a 0, you got 1s, you got 2s, you got 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, and 15, right? So you've got all these different costs here, and you've got a lot of cards that discard themselves as well. So, sorry, not this one, but for example, you know, she lets you discard her from hand to draw 1 and then discard 1, right? So it's like she immediately helps you to set that up. So the Vincent deck was kind of interesting. It also plays like the Kuan package just because. And it's like another one that's been kind of popping up. And this one's been pretty surprising from the decks that have been coming back. It's actually Bat.
Bats is back. Hold up.
From the people that remember the, you know, us casting the JCS, Bats were very common.
I remember.
So you can basically see, right, it's mostly just a Bat package, except for the addition of Ice Shilindrig. So this like
really generic. Like I don't know much about the new Japanese meta, but like seeing 3 of Ice Shilindrig in basically every Abyss deck, I'm like, that guy must be so good.
Yeah, he's like a 5-cost 5/5 that when he gets engaged, all opponents have to discard a card, right?
Oh.
So whether he attacks or use an effect to engage him, everyone has to ditch a card, and then yeah, if you don't have the train in play when you play him, he summons the train, and then the train itself. We can first take a look at the evolve version here. So his evolve version also says the same. If he gets engaged, all enemy players have to discard a card, and during your turn, when any player would discard a card, you choose an enemy follower and you engage it. So you also get things to swing into, right? And then his on-evolve effect is you discard 1 card from your own hand to choose 2 followers in your cemetery and add them back to your hand, which is like so generic.
Oh, that's so strong. It's like, it feels like such a more generic effect of kind of like what Kudlak did in the previous meta. But now you can just get it with Icy instead.
Yes, it's honestly quite crazy. And we can take a look at the train token as well. So it's pretty interesting to see like the token with like the orange stats on it, but it's a 5-cost 4/5 amulet token that has stats on it despite being an amulet.
Right. That's how they adapted maneuver from the digital game. They made amulets become guys. Yeah.
So he's got rush, and when he when the token attacks, you choose an enemy's engaged follower, destroy it, and heal your leader 2, which is pretty good. And then it also has the effect where you pay 1 and you have to engage your own followers that add up to cost of 5 or more, and then this becomes a 4/5 follower.
So you can use this to engage Ice Shilindrig himself, right?
Yes, exactly, because Ice is 5 cost.
Oh, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it basically works very much in conjunction. It's like so generic. So you basically see these old Abyss decks just come back with all the other like good generic cards like Sylvia and Zelganea and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a few cards from this set, like the Death Penalty is the name of this spell, which is a quick that chooses an enemy follower, gives it -2/-2. But if it's in the cemetery, you can choose this and your Chaos Ruler, Ice Shilindrig, and remove both of them, so banish both of them from the game, and then choose an enemy follower and engage it. So this, of course, works with the train. And then you've got the 3-cost here that basically is a 3-cost 3/3 that once per turn, when your original cost 1 token would leave play, then you can play a token with the same name as it to your field. So bats have a lot of cards that, you know, they have bats which are 1-cost tokens. So when the bats leave play, you immediately proc this effect to make another bat. And then his other effect is literally just choose another 1-cost card on your field, send it to Cemetery, choose an enemy follower, deal it 4 damage. So this guy does a lot for bats.
Yeah, that's quite nuts. Like, and I feel like bats sort of like, am I wrong? Like bats sort of fell off like way behind Earthright after a while, and then like now it's,
and then kind of came back as well. They came back a bit during set 10, or set it's like set like. They kind of came back in the right before the Vanguard set, I feel like, if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of like the playing field is quite open, I would say. So
which is good because in the Vanguard set, I feel like it was mostly Kagero, right? So the fact that it's way more open now is a good sign.
100%. So just from like, you know, the little bits and bobs that you know of the set, like what do you think, you know, we've got the big 4, but then you've got so many different Abyss variants. You've got, in my opinion, Force, which is also quite capable of doing well too. What do you think? What do you expect to do well in the Chiba event?
I'm not super familiar. Is it mostly like Vanguard Kagero or Dragon Kagero? That's
Vanguard Kagero.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. And it's like the main, like some people say there is a bit of like a Ferris wheel going on where it's like, you've got Vanguard Kagero that loses to Abyss, and then Sword beats, like the Wasteland Sword beats Abyss, and then Kagero beats Sword because, you know, Kagero has so much removal. So you've got a bit of that like Ferris wheel going on. Some players do say there is no such thing, so it kind of depends who you talk to. But then you've got things like, you know, the other Wasteland decks and a lot of the other decks from the meta that, you know, a lot of players that I know that are like very competitive and playing the current JP meta very actively are saying this meta is actually very, very fun. So I think it'll be quite exciting to tune into the stream.
I'm glad to hear it. I mean, for me personally, I as you know, I'm not super familiar with the JP meta. I only play it once in a while whenever I'm in Singapore with friends, but I'm gonna have to say I'm hoping for Lox's Forest to have a surprising showing. I just have a lot of affection for that card, and if it plays anything like it did in Digital, then it's gonna be a scary one for sure.
Yeah, I think my personal read is like, I think a lot of people still are very much aware that Vanguard is one of the best decks, and it did so well at the previous GP as well. Like I also played Overlord at the previous GP myself, and I do think a lot of people will try to meta read that deck in particular still, but then you'll have the other group of people trying to beat Abyss, and so I do see stuff like Sword. I honestly expect Sword to do very well in this coming format. So I think I'm gonna lock in my prediction for, you know, I think for winning, I could kind of see Sword taking the dub this time.
It'd be nice to see Sword take a dub as well. It's been a hot minute since they've been on top in JP.
Yeah, it definitely has.
Sword was maybe the last time. Like,
not sure a Sword is like did get a top 8 in the last GP, so during the Overlord meta. So it's still got a top, but now we have like more different variants, which I think is also very exciting. But yeah. So that's going to be our predictions for the GP coming up as well. You
definitely have more informed predictions than me. Like I'm not much of a GP player, so
we'll review the results.
Cool. Let's go for that.
Yeah, I think we'll review the results next month during the next episode and take a look at what actually came out on top. And that also gives a good insight to the players, you know, over in the English side too, like what to expect in a year's time, which I think is also always nice to look at. And so that is going to be it for this first half of the podcast. So I guess my side of the podcast. And then we're going to switch on over. For the YouTube folks, you can check out part 2 on Igni's channel. And then for the folks listening to this in audio, then you can just continue listening where you are right now. So with that, we'll move on to part 2 of EX Area episode 1.
Make sure to like and subscribe to DifferentFight on youtube.com.
And Ignideus, if you want to continue listening to this especially.
All right.